Los Angeles, June 12th, 1994, a quiet Sunday evening in Brentwood. But beneath that calm California glow, something horrific was about to unfold. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman had no idea that this night would be their last. At around 10:15 p.m., neighbors heard a dog barking, restless, desperate, and strange. Minutes later, the silence of the upscale neighborhood was pierced forever. When police arrived, they found two bodies. Nicole, O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, lying in a pool of blood outside her own front door. Her throat had been slashed so deeply it nearly severed her head. Ron Goldman, a 25-year-old waiter, was nearby, stabbed multiple times, his hands covered in defensive wounds. He had tried to fight back. He had tried to live. It was a scene of unimaginable violence. But the question burning through every investigator's mind was, why? Before the blood, before the horror, O.J. Simpson was America's golden boy, an NFL superstar, a smiling face in commercials, the man who ran through airports in Hertz ads, effortlessly charming millions. He was the embodiment of success, charisma, wealth, fame, the dream that every American boy thought was possible. But behind that perfect smile, cracks were already forming. Nicole Brown met O.J. in 1977 when she was just 18. He was married then, but soon they were inseparable, glamorous, magnetic, and toxic. Their relationship was a cycle of passion and pain. Friends remembered bruises, screaming fights, police calls that never made the headlines. In 1989, O.J. was arrested for spousal abuse. He pleaded no contest. Nicole filed for divorce 3 years later, claiming she feared for her life. To the public, O.J. was still the hero. To Nicole, he was a storm that never stopped. Detectives worked through the night. Blood trails led from the front walkway all the way around the property. And then, something strange. At the back gate, a single leather glove. Later that morning, police visited O.J.'s Rockingham estate to inform him of Nicole's death. But O.J. wasn't home. They noticed something else, a white Ford Bronco parked crookedly outside, blood on the door handle. Detective Mark Furman climbed over the wall and entered the property. In the backyard, near the air conditioning unit, he found another glove. It was identical to the one from Nicole's home. Blood samples were collected, Nicole's, Goldman's, and O.J.'s, all mixed, all connected. To investigators, the evidence was overwhelming. To the world, it was unthinkable. When police finally reached O.J., he agreed to turn himself in. He was supposed to surrender at 11 a.m., but 11 came and went, and O.J. was gone. That afternoon, the Los Angeles Police Department declared O.J. Simpson a fugitive. Then, hours later, a white Ford Bronco was spotted on Interstate 405. Al Cowlings was behind the wheel and in the back seat, O.J. holding a gun to his own head. For 2 hours, America watched, live. Helicopters above, police cars trailing slowly behind. News anchors whispered updates as if narrating the end of the world. Highways were empty, bars, restaurants, living rooms, all tuned in. The country wasn't watching a chase. They were watching a hero crumble. When the Bronco finally stopped at O.J.'s home, he surrendered quietly. Inside the vehicle, police found $8,750 in cash, a fake beard, a passport, and a gun. It looked like a man ready to disappear. The trial of the century began in January 1995. O.J. Simpson was charged with 2 counts of murder. He pleaded not guilty. The courtroom became a stage. Every word, every gesture, every photograph was televised to millions. And O.J. had assembled the most powerful legal defense team money could buy, the so-called Dream Team. Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, F. Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz, and Robert Kardashian. Across from them, prosecutors Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, under relentless pressure from the public and the press. DNA evidence seemed conclusive. O.J.'s blood was found at the crime scene. Nicole's blood was in his car. A glove with both victims' DNA was found at his home. But Cochran's team had a strategy: to put the system itself on trial. They claimed the LAPD had framed O.J., that racist detectives like Mark Furman had planted evidence, and they played on America's deepest wound: racial injustice. The jury wasn't just judging O.J. Simpson. They were judging an entire nation's history. The moment that defined the trial came on June 15, 1995. Prosecutor Christopher Darden made a bold move. He asked O.J. to try on the gloves. The courtroom fell silent. Cameras zoomed in as O.J. struggled to pull them over his hands. They looked small, tight, awkward. Then came Johnny Cochran's line: "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." It was more than a rhyme. It was strategy. It was theater. And it worked. To millions watching at home, it planted doubt. Was it possible? Could the LAPD really have fabricated evidence? That single scene rewrote the direction of the entire trial. After 11 months of televised drama, it was finally time. October 3rd, 1995. At 10 a.m., the world stopped. Over 100 million people watched as the jury returned to the courtroom. O.J. Simpson stood motionless. Not guilty. Gasps, screams, tears. Outside, celebrations erupted. Inside, the victims' families collapsed in grief. For one half of America, it was justice served, a black man finally beating a corrupt system. For the other half, it was justice denied, proof that fame and race could twist the law. Either way, history was made. The verdict didn't heal the country. It divided it deeper than ever. O.J. walked out a free man, but freedom didn't mean peace. He was bankrupt from legal fees, rejected by Hollywood, and haunted by public outrage. In 1997, the Goldman and Brown families filed a civil lawsuit against him. This time, the jury found him liable for the wrongful deaths of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. The penalty, $33.5 million in damages. It was justice, but only on paper. Years passed. O.J. tried to live quietly in Florida, but in 2007, he made headlines again, arrested for armed robbery in Las Vegas after trying to reclaim his own sports memorabilia. The irony was dark. The man who escaped a double murder conviction would now go to prison for stealing. He was sentenced to 33 years, released on parole in 2017. Older, heavier, still followed by ghosts. Decades later, the O.J. Simpson case still haunts America. Not just because of the murders, but because of what it revealed about race, celebrity, and justice. It showed how power can bend truth, how the media can turn tragedy into spectacle, and how a nation can see the same evidence and reach two completely different realities. For some, O.J. will forever be the man who got away with murder. For others, he'll always be the symbol of resistance against a broken system. But beneath all the noise, two people are gone: Nicole Brown, Ronald Goldman. Their names, often overshadowed, are the real story. Late at night, when the cameras are off and the crowds have gone, the question remains: was O.J. Simpson guilty? Or was he the product of a country too divided to see the truth? Maybe the real tragedy isn't what happened on that June night, but what it exposed in all of us. Because, in the end, some crimes stain more than blood. They stain history. End.